Today we're going to talk about provenance and things like that.
Provenance!
Yep.
Rafi's tips for artists because he loves you.
Hola, you amazing artist! Today I was thinking that we would discuss something that is always confusing for a lot of people. I know that it was confusing for me when I started my art career. And we are going to discuss two things. Provenance, what provenance is, and also certificates of authenticity and how they work with your artwork.
I love certificates.
I don't think you know what we're talking about.
I'm
here.
a real business person.
God. We have two questions from you guys that we're going to answer today. One of the questions is, what do you know or think about certificates of authenticity for any artwork created? I have seen some artists, including these, with the sale of their artwork. Thanks for your thoughts. No, thank you, mystery person who asked that question. I didn't put their name on there. I'm sorry.
Thanks for your question. Nice job, Rafi.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the reasons that artists get confused about certificates of authenticity is because there's all this like mystery and stuff behind it. Like, is this artwork real? Does it have a certificate of authenticity? And really, when it comes down to it, the only time that a certificate of authenticity genuinely applies is when it is an old artwork, something that is old, where the artist has passed away and there is no real way to prove that legitimately that artist created that work of art.
So when you're authentically dead, they can use it to verify that it's your art.
How are you authentically dead? How is somebody authentically dead?
When they're really gone.
Versus not really dead?
When they fake their own death.
I've actually had those moments where my sales were down a little bit, or where there were several months where maybe I wasn't making enough money, and I thought about faking my own death and then like having an auction for my work to see what would happen. That wouldn't be right.
Yeah, it was so rude because you said that you wouldn't even tell me.
Well, I can't tell you if I do that, because then you would give it you don't know how to lie.
My faking my death on social media would go like, I have died. Now my stuff is 50% off.
Why would you do 50% off? To get back to the point, a certificate of authenticity is when you got to bring in restorers or like an expert on Picasso's. They'll take a look at the provenance of the piece and whether or not it makes sense. So essentially, this expert, the person that certifies the artwork, is the one that creates a certificate of authenticity. You as an artist who are still alive and able to prove that yes, I created that piece, or no, I did not create that piece, you don't need to certify the artwork. Essentially, if you're creating a certificate of authenticity for your artwork, you are creating what is like a receipt. A certificate of authenticity is just a certificate that says that that is authentically a work of art that you created, that it wasn't created by somebody who was trying to fake your artwork.
Indeed, and it does add a level of fanciness, I think.
It does. It adds a level of fanciness, and it does give people some kind of sense of security, which is one of the reasons that I offer certificates of authenticity with my original artwork. You have a piece of paper that certifies that this was originally created by me. If you have a receipt like I do with my online sales where like there's the artwork's name and my name and then I sign it for the person, that's essentially a certificate of authenticity. It just doesn't say certificate of authenticity on it. For the longest time, especially in the beginning, I struggled with the idea of certificates of authenticity because I wasn't really sure what they were, how they worked, who did I need to call to get them done. There are all kinds of websites out there that prey on artists that don't know any better, that say you could get a certificate of authenticity with a laser scanned image and all that stuff. And it's like, you don't need any of that stuff. You don't need to pay a whole bunch of money to get a certificate of authenticity for your artwork because it's your artwork. You are certifying that it's yours. All you gotta do is print something out that says certificate of authenticity on it.
Yeah, basically my certificate of authenticity says, yes, I made this, and also that I used the best possible materials. So I made this, and I did my best.
Yep. Yeah,
I
did my best. In fact, when I figured out that certificate of authenticity was just that it's not this like major thing, I started creating these, right? So I made this on Photoshop and it just says, this is an original Rafi Perez original artwork certificate of authenticity. This warrants and guarantees that your new Rafi Perez artwork titled, and then I put in the title, Oh, I gotta take my glasses off, apparently. This original artwork is authenticated with official artist custom signature stamp. I had a stamp that I created. I don't really use that anymore. Located on both this certificate and on your piece, along with the item number. This is what I was using before, and I realized that this was too much of a pain in the butt. And then I got totally excited and started creating certificates of authenticity for my textured prints, certificates of authenticity for my original art, and then I started creating certificates of authenticity for original prints that I create.
Are you telling us that you went crazy and went a little overboard?
Yeah, I went crazy and went a little overboard.
Not you.
Yeah. Apparently, I have that issue where I jump on something, I'm like, I'm gonna do everything. Now what I do is I print this out. I get these done at Got Print. I designed these on Photoshop, and all it is on one side it says Certificate of Authenticity, and there is room for art by, and then artwork details. And so then I sign it and put in the title and the item number of it, and then I cut this in half. One of these goes on the receipt, and the other one goes stapled to the back of the painting. If you are going to do a certificate of authenticity, what I do recommend is that you just have a sheet of paper that says Certificate of Authenticity. I, Rafi Perez, certify that this is an original Rafi Perez work of art titled so-and-so and so, created such and such and such, and then have some kind of item number that you're able to write on the back of your painting or whatever it is that you created. And so that certificate of authenticity will be matched up with that work of art. You don't really need it unless you want it. So just remember, it is not something that you need. It is not anything fancy. You should not be paying somebody a whole bunch of money to get certificates of authenticity done. You are the artist. You can certify that you created the piece. Plain and simple.
People do seem to like them a whole lot.
Yeah, they do. There's an extra feeling of security when it comes with a certificate of authenticity, which is one of the reasons that I offer it. Is it needed? No. Not only that, but it feels cool to have, I have a certificate of authenticity with this work of art.
Yeah, whenever I send one out, I think, I'm so fancy.
The other question I got comes from Robin Lindbergh, and she asks about provenance. Now, her question is several pages long, but can you explain provenance? Okay, so the best way to explain provenance is for me to read what's on the internet. Provenance is the chronology of the ownership, custody, or location of a historical object. Yeah. So what does that mean? What is provenance? Provenance essentially is just something that is able to trace back where the artwork originated from. And again, that's not really something that you need to worry about as a living artist. It is more so to prove whether or not a Picasso is an actual Picasso by following the receipts on where it comes from. Now, the other term in which provenance is used is whether or not it was owned by somebody who was famous. If it was owned by a celebrity or somebody that was famous or by several of them, then that provenance adds to the value of the piece, because now no longer is this a Picasso, but this is a Picasso that was owned by the Queen of England.
So basically it's like a title to a car or a deed to a house.
Yeah, exactly. Follows that stream. Like if you bought the artwork and then 100 years ago you sold it to me, but there is a receipt that traces where you bought the artwork and then the fact that I bought the artwork and then whoever bought the artwork next, that's provenance. That's following the trail of where the object originated from and where it is now. That's what people use a lot of times to get a certificate of authenticity, to show that this is an authentic whatever it is, whether it's a Van Gogh or a Picasso, and it wasn't created by some dude in a small apartment creating duplicates of original artwork.
Provenance is the capital of Rhode Island.
There are a lot of art documentaries where you see these snobby people in the art world. They're like, well, the piece has provenance. And what you are hearing is that piece was owned by somebody that was a celebrity or an icon or something. And they're using that term, provenance, to explain that now this piece is much more expensive because it was owned by the Kardashians.
The art stock market loves their provenance.
Yeah, that's when you're dealing in that world of the art stock market, and not so much the art world that makes up about 99% of artists and people that buy art. You're talking about that 1% that are like, this piece has provenance.
This piece was owned by common peasants, but William Shatner sneezed upon it.
That's how provenance works in that realm, where people use it as a term to raise your prices. So
That realm is wildly entertaining to me.
it is wildly entertaining. So to wrap it up, certificates of authenticity, don't worry about it. It's not a mystery. It's just something that certifies that you created the artwork. Provenance just means that there is a trail of receipts that lets you know where the piece originated from and who has owned it since then. Unless you're talking about the art market provenance. Oh, this piece has provenance. That means that somebody who is somebody owned this piece, and thus that value went up. Hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully I was able to make sense of provenance and certificates of authenticity. If you have any questions for us, just leave them in the comments section below. And thank you so much for watching, you guys. I think you guys are so freaking awesome. I absolutely adore you. And if you like this and you want to watch more like this, just click right over here to subscribe. And say goodbye, Klee.
Good day.
Adios.